throughout the years growing up, especially the formative years, I would get to know music through mostly movies. I would have people play music around me sometimes, and sometimes I hated it, sometimes I liked it, whatnot. But usually it was always somehow songs that stood out in movies. And so this is kind of a series where I'm talking about some songs, some particular songs that stood out in particular movies that got me into different bands and different genres of music even. Now, as far as the Rolling Stones has gone, there's been actually several movies where I've kind of gotten some songs here and there over the years. And there's still several albums of theirs I've not even heard, because I just like so much music and so many movies. There's only so much time to dive into things. But yeah, so a lot of movies have introduced me to a lot of Rolling Stones song. And one of my most recent purchases was this album by the Rolling Stones called Sticky Fingers. Now, of course, the original album actually had a little zipper that you could undo and re-roll the image underneath. This is a reissue. This is a remaster from 2015, which typically I would go for the if I want the best sounding music. Most of the time, it's going to be like a very original copy, something early. Every once in a while, a remaster is done incredibly well. The 2001 Bob Marley remasters are very good. And this 2015 Rolling Stones is just incredible sounding. It is easily tops as far as this album goes, way beyond any releases that I've ever been able to hear. Got the back there. But yeah, when it comes to this album, before I purchased it brand new this time, I've heard most of the songs off of it, I would say. But there was one song in particular, which I'll get to, that was the one that stood out to me, and one that I was really, really looking forward to in more ways than one when I got this album. But starting off, side one, track one, you have Brown Sugar, which is easily one of the most famous songs. They even dropped it from their live set list in 2021, probably just because they said, well, they've played it at almost every show they ever did since 1971, so that's probably the majority of the reason. But just a very classic song. It's been in over 20 TV shows mostly, but I don't know, nothing really stood out to me as being something that I have seen that I would have recognized the song. And mostly I knew the song just by probably just hearing it. Of course I've heard songs from this album before. I've heard compilations. I've heard live shows plenty of times. So I definitely easily knew of the song, but I just never really heard it in anything that really I could remember. The second track, Sway, is it's another one of those songs that I don't remember it being in anything. I know it was in the movie The Many Saints of New York, and it was also in this, I think, movie from like 1974 called The Millionaires. That's basically it. It's probably one of the lesser known tracks on the album, but it's still really good nonetheless. Third track is a famous song, Wild Horses, which I did hear a lot. I definitely remember hearing that in Adaptation and Stuck on You, but it's been in almost 30 things. It's one of the more famous songs from the album for sure. Yeah, a fantastic song. But then you get to the fourth track, Can't You Hear Me Knocking? And the movie that I remember coming out and just hearing this song for the first time, I believe, was Blow. And I think a perfect song for the movie. And that the soundtrack to Blow itself was a great one. I bought the CD when the soundtrack came out, listened to it a lot, and Can't You Hear Me Knocking was just a song that just really stood out. And that was the song that I knew Rolling Stones songs before that, especially in some of the movies that I've seen prior to Blow that featured them. But Blow and Can't You Hear Me Knockin' was really the song that made me know that I wanted to truly get into knowing more of the Rolling Stones. And I'm still on that journey to this day. Yeah, if anything, if you've never seen the movie, basically it's based off a true story, which, you never know exactly how true those are. I mean, from what I remember, this was actually fairly faithful to the real events, but it has to do with cocaine and drug running throughout the 60s and 70s. And you have Johnny Depp in there, who is fantastic. Really overall, just a great movie. And like I said, the entire rest of the soundtrack stands out, but this song is just it stands out big time in the movie. And it's one of those formative movies that led me to wanting to discover not just the Rolling Stones, but the rest of the bands from the rest of the soundtrack. That was a big one for me. To finish off side A, you have a song, You Gotta Move. It's been in a couple of TV shows. It's a fine bluesy song. This whole record is rock blues mashup to perfection, just about. And yeah, it's a nice way to finish off the side A. Then on side B, you start off with Bitch, which is a song that you see pop up throughout their live shows throughout their entire career. It's been in a couple TV shows. I do remember it being in Jerry Maguire, which that came out like in 1996, and I don't recall the song being something that I heard in 96 and looked it up and realized it was the Rolling Stones. But I did remember when that came out on 4K. I watched it, and I was like, oh, hey, that's the Rolling Stones and Jerry Maguire. So I always like hearing songs like that in movies, just to be able to spot it, especially when you know who it is. Track 2 is I Got the Blues. Again, just a couple of TV shows. Then you got Sister Morphine, which to me is kind of almost a standout track that it's not as well known as at least probably 3 or 4 of the songs on the album. But then again, this is a stacked album, so it actually is kind of known. But it's just in a couple of shows. Track 4, you got Dead Flowers. Another really fantastic song. Once again, fairly big live, but just in a couple of things. Although it was uncredited in an episode of True Blood. And then to finish off the album, you have Moonlight Mile, which was one that I never heard of until I really listened to this album. And kind of like Sway, You Gotta Move, I Got the Blues. Those songs I never really knew that well before listening to this album. And I like Moonlight Mile. It's only been on a couple of things, including The Sopranos. But yeah, I would say there's definitely some movies, especially if you've seen that The Many Saints in New York, that's kind of a fairly new movie. Other than the TV shows, definitely go watch Blow. I think that will if you don't know too much about the Rolling Stones, check that movie out. Listen to Can't You Hear Me Knockin'. Get the mood, and that movie with that song will automatically translate your mood into loving this album. So yeah, so that does it for this episode. Once again, if you're going to if you like this album, if you already own it, if you've never heard it, whatever the case is, go for this 2015 vinyl. It's incredible. Not much more I can say other than that remaster is something else. And as far as their catalog of music, it's right there in that late 60s, early 70s, four record sweet zone of blues rock that just dominated that sound. And the greatest thing about this is it's able to feel sound wise so great, because you listen to Can't You Hear Me Knocking, which is kind of like the song that I've known in my head as far as what it should sound like, and it feels raw, and it feels like exactly like it should sound. And yeah, let me know in the comments below what you think of this record, if what you think of the band themselves. If you ever seen the movie Blow or anything else on this list, and recognize some Rolling Stones songs from this album, and anything else, anything that you've really seen, especially some of those movies that can really make songs stand out sometimes. But yeah, there's going to be several more of these. I'm going to mention other Rolling Stones albums with other movies, but lots of different movies that have led me on down paths of discovering music. And Blow definitely was a movie that really led me to discovering and enjoying the Rolling Stones quite a lot. So I'll catch you on the next one.